We start in Mexico, where political violence has claimed another victim. Jose Remedios Sanchez, a mayoral candidate from the same coalition as presidential hopeful Andres Manuel Obrador, was murdered on Friday. The 35-year-old candidate was shot dead at close range in the ecological park of Apaseo El Alto. 2 other people were reportedly injured. The perpetrators escaped in a white convertible Ford Mustang with a U.S. license plate. According to witnesses, since September, when electoral campaigns began, over 90 candidates, politicians, and officials have been murdered. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was in Apure for today's campaign. He moves into the final week of campaigning ahead in the polls, the latest putting him at 55%. In addition to his usual calls for peace in the election and the fight against American imperialism and the defense of the revolution, he had some specific promises for the people of Apure.
We have a new project presented by the governor of Apure, requesting 2 trillion bolivars to start improving the State General Hospital. We are also working on the new housing projects. We have built 52,000 homes, and as a part of the Homeland Plan, I have authorized 50,000 more for the state of Apure.
Maduro also made another stop in Aragua. He said Venezuela would never return to the IMF, whose influence had done so much harm in the past. And Henry Falcon has taken his campaign to Portuguesa. Falcon said he will meet with the authorities of the National Electoral Council, or CNE, on Monday to discuss irregularities that he believes will give the government the advantage in the election. In his speech, he also said that one of his acts as president will be the creation of the humanitarian card, through which subsidies will be received in US dollars. And our correspondent Ian Bruce visited the Javier Bertucci campaign on Friday and filed this report.
One of the surprises in this election campaign has been the emergence of Javier Bertucci as the third-placed candidate. The evangelical pastor was almost completely unknown to most Venezuelans a few months ago, even a few weeks ago. Most of the polls, although they're not particularly reliable, now put him on around 14, 15, 16%, somewhere around there. Now, that is significant for a candidate that wasn't known, and if you put that together with the percentage that Henry Falcon, the main opposition candidate, has, that could pose a serious challenge to President Nicolas Maduro. How does he do it? Well, Bertucci's main technique are these sopazos, or big soup handouts. For his campaign events, he invites people, they've been queuing up for over an hour now, to come to the event and get free soup. One of the things he says he's going to do as soon as he's president is to open up the country's borders to humanitarian aid. Now, of course, that's always been seen as a means of intervention by the government, and for that reason, and as a matter of basic sovereignty, it's been refused by the Chavistas. But he says he's going to open up the borders to Brazil and Colombia to provide so-called humanitarian aid. That could, of course, also mean allowing foreign troops, including even US troops, onto Venezuela's soil to distribute that aid. And that, of course, would not be acceptable to a very large number of Venezuelans, especially those who have been supporting the Chavista revolution for the last 19 years. The rest of Bertucci's policies are not very clear. He talks about dropping exchange controls, giving confidence to business. He says he's going to repair the economy within a year, but how exactly he's going to do that remains something of a mystery.
Ian Bruce there. More than 100 Venezuelans have joined the Workers' Production Brigade in the factories of Yarocuy. The initiative has raised the production levels from 30% to 70% at a recycling plant in this region, in a bid to lessen the effects of the economic sanctions and improve the lives of Venezuelans.
These workers are used to hard work, so it was a natural thing for them to take up the call to join the Workers' Production Brigade.
I feel proud to belong to this brigade, where we fight not with weapons, but with our hands and with our conscience.
In this factory, more than 80 men and women from 11 public and private businesses across several states of Venezuela have joined the battle to increase the production capacity of this gas cylinder recycling plant.
There is no rest for us. The important thing is to live the country with our skilled workforce. We are a brotherhood of workers. We volunteer. We aren't charging anything.
In order to increase production, workers start early morning on Monday and keep an eye on any bottlenecks that slow down production. After identifying the bottlenecks of the workflow, it is time to repair the machinery. This dashboard, for example, has been waiting for 2 years for the contractor to install it. But the Workers' Production Brigade decided to get down to work and do it straight away.
It's really hard because we don't have an instruction manual, but we are putting a lot of time and effort to make it work.
After only a half day of work, the main dashboard for the automatic operation of the workstation, where the gas cylinders come to life, slowly begins to work.
In these production battles, multidisciplinary teams come together, electricians, mechanics, instrumentalists, among other professions. And by combining our knowledge, we are able to bring life to this machinery.
As they work night and day, it is necessary to stay and sleep in the plant for a week to fix problems that have been going on for months and years.
It's really tough and tiring. This is my second time fulfilling my duties, fixing the problems.
After a week of work, the brigade has raised the production capacity of this gas cylinder recycling plant by 40%.
Now, Chile's foreign minister wants members of the Lima Group to put even more pressure on Venezuela when they meet next week for the last time before the May 20th election. Roberto Ampuero, who is visiting the United States, said his and other countries of the Lima Group will not recognize the election. He added that Chile may not fill its empty ambassador seat in Caracas to send what he called a clear signal. The Lima Group meets this week in Mexico City. Ampuero said one of the measures the bloc member countries could take could be stricter controls on the ability of Venezuelan officials to enter their territories. But he said the measures should not cause suffering for the Venezuelan population. Colombia's presidential election will be overseen by a US-based nonprofit that will check the electoral software in order to prevent a recurrence of the issues that allowed the elimination of hundreds of thousands of votes in the 2014 elections. A delegation of international election observers, including the United States-based International Foundation for Electoral Systems, will monitor the presidential election scheduled for May 27th. Colombia's National Electoral Council agreed to let IFES and other observers review the process after members of the public and candidates raised concerns. And Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos is in Italy alongside German Chancellor Angela Merkel. During a meeting in the Italian town of Assisi, Santos was asked about the peace process in Colombia. Talks with the ELN were halted in April when Ecuador pulled its support as host country over tensions on the Colombian border. Talks resumed in Havana this week.
Peace is not only about silencing the guns. That is just the first step. You reach an agreement, you silence the guns. But that's where the real building of peace starts, and it takes time, a lot of time. I normally compare it to building a cathedral. For that, you need strong foundations in order to place brick after brick. And civil society needs to be involved in the process. I have repeated it many times. Peace, at least in my country, does not belong to the president or the government. It belongs to all Colombians, and all Colombians need to embrace it and contribute to the building of peace.
In more election news, political leader of the Barbados Labour Party, Mia Mottley, is promising consultation on several hot topic issues if she becomes Prime Minister of Barbados. She was speaking at a rally where she said she'd want to see the decriminalization of marijuana, but she will not take any unilateral decisions if she's in government.
Now we have to be able to deal with issues such as the decriminalization of marijuana, recreational marijuana. And we have to do it recognizing that too many of our young men are going to prison and young women in circumstances where elsewhere in the world there's a different perspective. But we are not going to make this decision as a government. We feel it must come to you, the people, as is the same with everything else. And for those who want to tell you that about same-sex marriages, same thing there too. And for those who want to tell you that about capital punishment, same thing there too.
Now, Barbados' Minister of Finance, Chris Sinclair, is warning that proposals of the Barbados Labour Party will cost about $350 million. Sinclair said in a public meeting that the BLP leader's proposal to increase non-contributory pensions was a, quote, spectacular display of ignorance. He added her plan for free tertiary education and other promises will empty the Treasury. And a newly formed party in Barbados, the United Progressive Party, launches its Orange Economy and will present their slate of candidates for the upcoming election today. The UPP is under the leadership of attorney Lynette Eastman. They have been touting the creative economy as a plank on which to rebuild Barbados. Eastman outlined some of her plans via a Facebook Live on Friday.
The laws in Barbados now are becoming highly burdensome to business in Barbados and to people in Barbados. It is stifling us. There's so many regulations that you have to go through to get anything done that people are giving up. You know, they're leaving.
We're going to take a short break now. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Thousands of people have taken to the streets in Chile's capital, Santiago, to demand women's rights. Our correspondent in Santiago, Paulo Jagnich, has more.
The streets of Santiago are flooded with people for the massive march of No One Less. Thousands of women and men came out on the streets to protest and say no more gender violence and no more rape. This protest took place after many sexual harassment cases, including child molestation cases, which outraged most of the population. This demonstration has brought a lot of attention even from conservative media outlets. It's one of the biggest protests condemning violence against women across Chile.
Thank you for that, Paula. And protests have continued in Nicaragua's capital of Managua. Government officials confirmed 3 people, 2 teenagers and a 53-year-old man, were shot dead in the clashes, bringing the total number of victims killed since the protest started to at least 50. The government continues to blame the right-wing opposition for the protest. Nicaragua is awaiting the start of dialogues between the government and the private sector, with the church saying they're ready to act as mediators. A date has not been set for the meeting.
He told me, we are here at the protest, and I told him, take care. I called another guy and he told me that he, my brother, went forward. Obviously we didn't expect this because nobody would expect this to happen, really.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas continues his Latin American tour. This time he's in Cuba. Abbas placed a floral wreath at the Jose Marti Memorial at Revolution Square before attending an official reception with President Diaz-Canel. During his visit, Abbas is expected to visit Cuba's medical school, where a group of Palestinian students study. Cuba has historically maintained close ties with the Palestinian state, which it sees as an ally in its fight against imperialism and the West. Peruvian President Martin Vizcarra has presented his government's plan for the next few years. Critics say the plan favors private businesses and puts human rights and natural resources at risk.
The government of Martin Vizcarra has presented to Congress an economic development plan promoting private investing and granting several mining and oil resources to private companies.
We look at the construction of new mining projects with optimism. Projects worth $10 billion, such as the Quellaveco mine in Moquegua and the extension of the Toromocho project in Junín.
The proposal was approved by most of Congress. Only 2 left-wing party members voted against it. They say this government plan represents a continuation of Kuczynski's administration, which was based on a failed economic model. That does not benefit the majority of the people. It does not generate employment, nor does it reduce poverty.
This plan benefits global companies and avoids environmental controls. It also uses cheap labor. So we have the same extractive model that does not benefit the country. It benefits foreign interests and harms local economic growth.
Social organizations say most of the proposed mining projects do not have proper licenses and will trigger many future conflicts across the country.
We cannot have a mining project in an area that takes water resources from an entire region. This needs the attention of the government. We must care for our water sources. We have to diversify the economy, and not just to depend on mining activity. We must consider the impacts that these activities have on the environment and local people.
Conflicts have already begun to emerge. This week, people in Piura and Arequipa protested against the Rio Blanco and Tia Maria projects for the damage they would cause to natural resources because of the constant abuse of these companies against the people.
The Mexican state of Chiapas has a special new handicraft market. The aim of the project is to encourage locals to stay in the region and make a living selling traditional products.
This is a special market with traders from different states who offer traditional handicrafts. Juana is part of a 12-women group from Chiapas who work very carefully on each and every piece of clothing.
The time depends on each design. If it has many flowers, we take 20 to 25 days. The simpler ones take us 10 days to 15 days to finish.
We can also find the traditional molcajete, which is a stone mortar used in many homes to prepare spicy sauce. They say it lasts forever.
We pass it from one generation to another. It's like having a part of our grandparents or elder relatives. They stay with us forever.
The goal of this market and the Mexican Gastronomy School is to rescue country's traditions and to develop fair and ethical products.
It's a win-win situation. The customers take valuable and unique objects, and the resellers receive a fair payment for their work. All of this is totally handmade. The products are made one by one with hard work and ancestral knowledge.
The El Hato producers offer a big variety of products made with the knowledge of a society that used to be self-sufficient. For them, this craft is a way to fight migration.
We need people to learn the trades and to be part of workshops because we need them to stay in the community.
The National Statistics Institute says that more than 12,000 Mexicans live from handicrafts trade, and this also keeps some of the oldest traditions of this country alive.
Time for another short break. Now join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Thousands of people have voted in Iraq's first parliamentary election since the country declared victory over the Islamic State group. Polling station closed after 11 hours of voting. The election took place under tight security given the ongoing threat posed by jihadists. The electoral process comes amid fear that Iraq will be destabilized after the United States pulled out of a nuclear deal with Iran. Our correspondent in Damascus, Hisham Wanous, has more.
Since the beginning of the parliamentary elections today, there have not been any incidents reported. This is a result of the security measures ordered by Iraqi authorities to guarantee people's safety. These are the 4 parliamentary elections since the 2003 U.S. invasion to Iraq. However, in the run-up of the elections, there was an attack on a checkpoint, killing 6 police officers and injuring 2. There was also an attempted suicide bombing by Islamic State members in a polling station near to Baghdad. However, security forces were able to put down the attackers and defuse the explosive attached to their bodies. About 20 million people have voted across 18 provinces in more than 8,000 polling stations in order to elect 330 seats of the Iraqi parliament.
Hisham Wanous there from Damascus. Another knife attack in a crowded tourist area in Paris, France, has left 2 people dead with several others injured. The identity of the suspect and the reason for the attack are unclear. Witnesses say he was stabbing people at random before being shot and killed by police. Islamic State has claimed responsibility. North Korea state media says the country will dismantle its nuclear test site sometime between May 23rd and 25th, depending on weather conditions. The government plans to demolish all of its tunnels with explosions, blocking its entrances and removing all observation facilities, research buildings and security posts. The announcement comes after US President Donald Trump said he would hold a summit with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Singapore on June 12th. Trump tweeted about the move saying, quote, "Thank you, a very smart and gracious gesture." In Bolivia, the biggest cable car in the world has ended 4 years of operation and has turned into a self-financing public company.
4 years ago, La Paz got its aerial cable car urban transit system. The Red Line was the first step, and the public transport project now has 6 lines and 20 stations.
The cable car now is quick, safe and clean, so public transport is much better than it used to be.
This service is necessary for every Bolivian.
You can get to many different places by cable car.
It is an alternative solution to mass transport in La Paz, which is a difficult terrain, with more than 300 rivers flowing across the city, making building a subway impossible.
After 4 years, our cable car network has the record of the biggest number of passengers transported in a single day. The Yellow Line alone moved nearly 85,000 passengers. And after all this time, we can say that this company is one of the few in the world which is totally financially sustainable. It doesn't need any subsidy.
During the 4 years, the first 6 lines transported 125 million passengers, which is 10 times the country's population. President Evo Morales congratulated the success of this public company.
Our company now has been invited to work in different parts of South America. Our company could be giving a service in countries where it never existed before.
President Morales also talked about the national and international camp working against the image of his administration and to damage the country's economic model.
In spite of the economic and social results we have achieved, there are some people outside and even inside the country that keep attacking our government. They just want our economic model to fail. We need to invest more, and they are opposed to more investment.
The cable car network covers more than 20 miles and is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest line in the world, with the completion of 5 more lines, bringing its number to 11 by 2020. More than $700 million will be invested and the service will cover more than 30 miles.
Telesur, Bolivia.
And that story brings us to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for Telesur English. I'm Keishan Haynes. Thank you for watching.
Enjoy our programming from Monday to Friday, where you'll find the best information on innovation, conservation, human well-being, and human rights. Keep up to date on the latest innovations in science and technology with Atomun. The habits and knowledge you need to live a healthy lifestyle are on Guide Your Body.